Hi, and greetings again, everyone. It's Dr. Trailer. Welcome back, and we are on Unit 1.2 Foundations of Philosophy. So, in this lecture, we're going to cover the following things. We're going to briefly talk about the value of philosophy, and then I will go over what I like to call the Q card, which are the fundamentals of philosophy or the essential things that one does in philosophy. As I stated previously, philosophy as a discipline is something that you learn, but it's also something that you do. Finally, I'll be spending time talking about the branches of philosophy, the five branches of philosophy. So by the end of the lecture, you should be familiar with, again, the value of philosophy, the Q card process, the acronym, what does the Q card stand for, and finally, the five branches of philosophy. All right, so why study philosophy at all? Philosophy is important for various reasons and can be useful in many different career paths that you decide to go down. However, three essential reasons why philosophy is valuable are the following. Number one, philosophy helps you expand your perspective. It helps you see things from a different point of view. It helps you see multiple pathways to or multiple solutions to a problem. So, where a typical person may go for the easy route of trying to solve something, a philosopher will take the time to try to understand two, three, or even four different ways to see a particular issue before deciding how to solve it, which gives them a greater advantage because they're looking from multiple perspectives. The second reason philosophy is valuable because it helps you challenge your belief systems. If you just hold the same beliefs from the time you're a child to the time you're adult to the time that you are an adult, you wouldn't have any growth or progress, right? So it's important for us to challenge our belief systems, even our deepest held beliefs. Another part of that is not necessarily challenging our belief systems in order to change them. Sometimes they may change, but challenging them gives us the ability to recognize that our beliefs are truly ours and that we truly believe them and we're not just repeating them because it's something we heard when we were younger and we've just been repeating it ever since. By challenging our belief systems, we know that they hold up to scrutiny, and then we also can be sure that we truly believe what we're stating we believe. Which leads us to our final point. Philosophy will help you improve your reasoning skills. What this means is you'll be able to provide logic and reason behind your beliefs versus just saying, oh, I believe this because blah, 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 without having really any real substance there. Okay? You'll be able to actually give clear cut, concrete reasons why you believe what you believe and be able to create arguments around your beliefs to justify them. Okay? So that's the value of philosophy. And again, philosophy is useful whether you want to be an architect or a lawyer, because these are basically skills or things that will help you in any of those career paths. Okay. So this takes us to the Q card, the fundamentals or the essential things one does in philosophy. And again, you'll start to see that philosophy can be useful in so many different ways in your everyday life because all of these things are important in your everyday life, but also in any pretty much any future career because all of these particular skills listed here would be useful in any career path that one chose to take in the future. So the Q card stands for questioning, critical thinking, analyzing, reasoning, and dialogue. These are the things that we'll be doing in this class, but these are also the essential components of philosophy. Okay? So questioning. We will begin to question absolutely everything. Things that we typically take for granted. For example, philosophers over time have questioned happiness. What does happiness truly consist of? Friendship. What does it mean to have a friendship? Success. But they also question things that we really take for granted, such as time. We assume that time is linear, but what if time is circular? So these are the kind of things we'll be doing within this class. We'll start to question absolutely everything and we'll take nothing for granted, okay? The C in the Q card stands for critical thinking, all right? So oftentimes memorization is an essential part of a course. You will come to memorize or learn some of the key ideas and philosophers, their names, their ideas, etc. However, this class is not a memorization class. Again, philosophy is something you do. So we will be thinking critically. We will be looking at these ideas, not just memorizing them, but we'll be looking at them from multiple perspectives and really trying to understand them. We'll push ourselves to think outside of the box like these philosophers have in the past and like they do always, because that's what philosophers do, right? So we will use our critical thinking skills. We will stay open minded and we will not just memorize material, okay? Analyzing. Analyzing is trying to break something down, okay? So we'll take these different readings from these philosophers, we'll look at their different ideas, and we'll try to break it down. What's strong about their idea? What do we really like? And what's the weakness in their idea? How do we compare ideas? If we look at an idea from Kant, for example, and how can we compare it to an idea from Thomas Hobbes or John Locke? These are the kind of things we'll do in analyzing throughout this course. Reasoning. Again, reasoning is critical because we need to be able to basically justify why we believe what we believe. So another fundamental or essential aspect of philosophy is being able to show reason, to show logic behind a particular argument or thought. We'll also be taking time to look at the reasoning that these different philosophers have come up with over time and see if we think that their reasoning is strong or if we think it's weak reasoning, and so on. And finally, dialogue. In philosophy, you have to discuss, you have to talk. At the end of each unit, well, at the beginning of units, I'll be prompting a discussion question, and throughout the unit, you'll get different thought experiments and things that connect to the bigger idea that we're talking about and the readings from the particular philosophers. At the end, excuse me, at the very end of each section, you'll be engaging in dialogue with your fellow peers and classmates and talking about all of these different ideas, questions, the readings, etc. Okay? So, again, the cue card, the essential things of philosophy: questioning, critical thinking, analyzing, reasoning, and dialogue. These are essential to philosophy, they're essential to early modern philosophy, and they're essential to your everyday life. Okay? Finally, the branches of philosophy. We have 5 branches of philosophy. We have epistemology, metaphysics, ethics, sociopolitical, and aesthetics. And don't worry if you didn't write all of that down right this moment. I'm going to go through each of them one by one just to give you a better idea of what they're all about. So, epistemology is all about the study of knowledge. We'll get more into that when we move on to our next unit. However, here are some of the essential questions of epistemology. How do we come to know what we know? Are there things beyond the limit of our knowledge that we can't know at the end of the day? And how will we know we don't know them? Okay. Is human knowledge truly trustworthy? Can we trust that which we claim to know? Can belief count as knowledge? If I truly believe something, does that count as knowledge? Do I need to have evidence if I have a belief? If I believe something, do I have to have evidence in order to hold it as a belief? Finally, can we trust our intuition as a form of knowledge? What about emotions? Is that a way of knowing? And can we ever truly know anything at the end of the day? So these are the kind of questions that fall within the realm of epistemology, which is again the first branch of philosophy. The second branch of philosophy is metaphysics. I like to think of metaphysics, if you've ever seen the movie The Matrix, it's kind of all the mysterious stuff of the world. So you can think of metaphysics, the M, mysterious. That's what essentially metaphysics is all about, okay? It's about reality and the mysterious questions we can't quite answer, okay? So some of the questions that fall under the umbrella of metaphysics: what constitutes our truest reality? What is the nature of time and what time are we in? Can there be parallel universes? Does God exist? If so, how do we prove it or how do we disprove it? Can we control our destiny? Are we truly in control of ourselves or is there something higher that has things faded out for us? These are all the essential questions of metaphysics. Ethics. we all are pretty much familiar with ethics in terms of right or wrong, right? That's kind of the core of ethical theories or ethics in general. However, here are a few questions just to ponder to give you an idea of what we will be looking at when we get into the portion of ethics, or our unit on ethics. So, what actions are right and wrong? And then, how do I determine if an action is right or wrong? What process do I use in order to determine the rightness or wrongness of a said action? Are laws always ethical? We're told to follow the law. However, are the laws always ethical and right? And if they're not, is it wrong to break an unethical law, or should we still follow the law even if the law itself is unethical? Finally, is our afterlife or even our status of personhood somehow tied to our moral actions in that which we do? When we think about things like either reincarnation or heaven and hell, all of those things essentially can be tied to ethical questions. Socio-political philosophy is the fourth branch of philosophy. And socio-political philosophy looks at society and politics and kind of meshes them together. Okay. So, some of the questions under socio-political philosophy: what is an ideal government structure? What does it look like? Is it one person in charge? Is it several people in charge? All of those kind of questions. What should a government get to regulate and not regulate? What should the people be in charge of for themselves, and what should the government help the people with at the end of the day? Other questions: what obligation do the people have to the state? And on the other end of that, what obligation does the state have to the people? And finally, what do you do when the rights of individuals within a society collide? How do you decide which socio-political you'll see actually kind of sometimes overlaps with ethics, the previous branch? Because in this particular question, what do we do when the rights of two individuals within a society collide? Say, for example, if it's a society that allows smoking. So there's the right of the individual to smoke if they so choose, but then there's the right of an individual to not have to be in the presence of secondhand smoke, right? So, how do we decide in those kinds of situations whose rights get to kind of go on top, if you will? So, these are essentially questions of socio political philosophy. And finally, our final branch of philosophy is aesthetics, okay? This is basically art, beauty, all of that good stuff that we really love in the humanities, right? So, some of the questions of aesthetics: what is beauty? And if beauty is subjective, you know, people say beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Then basically, if that's the case and it's subjective, then is nothing truly beautiful at the end of the day? Or is everything beautiful? And how do we determine that? What counts as art? I'm sure many of you have maybe been to a museum or an art show, and you've seen something that looks like it may have been thrown together in 5 minutes, or like they accidentally spilled their coffee or ketchup on the canvas, right? So it doesn't seem like it's truly art. But what counts as art? How do we determine good art from bad art? Who's in charge of determining that? The audience, or is it within the artist? And finally, speaking of the artists, do artists have a responsibility to their artists or only their own creativity? At the end of the day, should an artist have to change their what's coming from within in order to make their audience happy, or should they just create whatever they're feeling or whatever they think is art itself? Okay, so a quick recap: we have talked about the value of philosophy. We have talked about the cue card, which are the essential things one needs to do philosophy. And finally, we have discussed the five branches of philosophy. So hopefully you have all that information and you're feeling good about moving forward. I look forward to seeing you in the next lecture. So thank you as always, and please continue on to Unit 1, Lecture 3. Take care. Bye bye.